whatever consists of 2020 has been pretty horrific from a lot of standpoints. So I do think it's important to look at the companies that are actually thriving amidst all this disruption. So the homeschooling industry has kind of erupted, along with online live education. Peloton and other home workouts are taking off like never before. Home gardening, I bought a lettuce grow, which is, you know, a vertical garden. Technology, of course, Zoom's going gangbusters. So I think it's important to kind of recognize the silver lining in all of this. Disruption is going to be inevitable in your practices moving forward. So now is a really good time to be intentional about how you're going to position yourself and your services to continue to thrive amidst the change. So again, I want this to be a discussion, and I'd love to hear what you're doing or where you're seeing challenges. Let me share my screen. Okay, did that work out the way it was supposed to?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Great, okay. So a lot of people talk about marketing and business development, and I think right now business development really has an elevated role, given that converting relationships into new business, really we need to focus on the relationship side of things. So what this discussion will really be focusing on is one-on-one attention. You know, none of us want to be on the receiving end of spam. So really focusing on the actual relationships that result in new business or work is really what this conversation is going to be focused around. So there are a lot of concerns. I mean, I listed all the crazy stuff happening this year. I mean, a part of it, I'm sure we can come up with a few more things that we're all dealing with. But I'd like to hear from you guys, since we have such a small group. What are your concerns doing in regards to business development this year? Does anyone want to share? Keith, do you have any concerns?
What? Yeah. Found with, so I've been a managing partner here for the last 8 years, and you know, the collaboration element of our practice is nearly non-existent anymore. You know, we try and supplement it with things like this, Zoom calls and things like that. But as a management team, you know, we've kind of made the decision that we need to get people back in the office as soon as possible, because productivity, both with us and with our clients, has seemed to fall off. So I would say the ability to get together and to discuss opportunities and just the collaboration aspect of our practice has really been hurt by this. I mean, we've done a lot of individual business development, but obviously as a firm and as a group, we've done almost none. So, I mean, there's a lot of concerns right now, and that's just kind of how where we're at it with it right now. We're in Massachusetts right now, so I don't know if it's different out here than it is in the, you know, in the West.
Where in Massachusetts are you?
Boston.
Nice. I moved to San Diego almost 7 years ago now.
Okay.
The 10 Post Office Square for 40 years.
Yeah, we're on State Street, so.
Hey, well,
yeah.
It's good to see you.
Well, that I don't think that's unique to Boston. That is definitely kind of the sentiment across the country. Firms are, you know, when you work in a firm with other lawyers, you're losing out on the opportunity of figuring out how to cross-sell or, you know, that collaboration component. That's certainly a concern, and it's one that everyone is dealing with in that kind of larger firm environment. Antonella or Joanne, do you have anything else that you're specifically thinking about as a concern as it relates to business development?
I think as from a litigation perspective, certainly the pandemic has brought a ton of litigation with it. So that's really great for business development. But unfortunately, I think also across the country, the courts are not in a position to start processing that as a result of closures, cuts in staff, social distancing, inability to get jurors, you name it. So that's kind of created a backlog in that sense. But one of the things that I've noticed, at least among people in the, I think the legal profession, is aside from those people and those attorneys and clients who have been running to the clerk's office to file their pleadings, et cetera, there is a real kind of sense that people are waiting for things to go back to normal. It just sort of puts a damper and a delay on everything. So not only are they distant and they're working in distant locations from home, they're not collaborating in that sense, but there's also this, well, you know, things are going to go back to normal and we'll do it then. We'll do it then. It's a postponement. And I don't think it's realistic, but it still exists.
Definitely. Antonella, did you want to share anything?
I just think, I mean, we are getting some more calls. I mean, we do a lot of business formation. So a lot of people now, all of a sudden they've had time to, find out what their passion is and decide to start a business. So that's good. I think we're just having trouble capturing and figuring out, what's the right, venue for us to reach people. I mean, I think some things are working. I just kind of want some tips on, what's the best way to kind of reach people and it might just be that, it might just be trying different things, but I think we're having problems kind of figuring that out and what's the best return on investment as well.
Okay. So
can I just make one other comment?
Please.
From both the litigation and a business standpoint, I think there's also a real concern, fear, but concern about the unknown, what the future brings with it. And, that goes back to the unrest, the political situation, the lack of resolution of the pandemic and all those things. So there's also kind of a uncertainty and inability or unwillingness to pull the trigger on starting a new business or this, that, or the other thing because of the fear of the unknown. That's all.
Right.
If I can just add, I kind of think the lawyers, all lawyers, generally speaking, in better shape. It's not like we're restaurants where meals will not be served, haven't been served in the future. People will be looking for those patents soon. The litigation still needs to be resolved and corporations formed. So I think there's a lot of reason for it. It's a great time to dig in and develop business, I think.
Definitely. We're all very blessed that we are in these professional service careers where we just need to kind of pivot and position ourselves in a way where we're providing value and creating opportunities for ourselves. There's certainly industries that are just screwed, like, hospitality and hotels and all those things. So it's helpful to keep that in perspective, but we're dealing with challenges nonetheless. So a lot of the attorneys that I work with now are busy. And so, thinking about business development is difficult because now not only are they busy with work, but they've got all these other things going on. Maybe they're homeschooling, that sort of thing. Like we mentioned, Joanne, a lot of people are like, well, 2020 is a wash. I'll start again when this, we restart in 2021. I think that kind of thinking will put you at a disadvantage. I think we're all going to do well if we look at this as something that's not changing and figuring out how to best position ourselves. Obviously, the way that the courts are handling it is really affecting, you know, the litigation practice professionals. But at the same time, like you mentioned, there's a ton of need on the client side. So I imagine that part will get worked out. So the other thing is unsure about how to do business development without meeting in person. Bob and I were chatting about provisors and all these groups that used to meet in person. A lot of my clients get a lot of their work and new business from these large conferences that would happen every year. So not knowing how to substitute those in-person things with something else is obviously a concern. You know, we're going to focus on actually reaching out to individuals in this conversation. And so a concern I've heard is that people don't want to appear salesy or come across as insensitive. So obviously that is going to be, you know, a concern. And we'll talk through kind of why it really is an opportunity. And lastly, not sure how you can be of service when you are reaching out to people in your network is another concern. So we'll talk through again ways to make sure that when you are reaching out, it feels very genuine and you're able to offer some value when you're connecting with these people. So opportunities, these will fly in. People are more accessible than ever because we're not going to conferences, because we're all kind of stuck where we're at. It's generally been a lot easier to get a hold of people. So maybe you have past clients or referral partners that are generally hard to nail down. Now it's a little easier to get a phone call with them or a Zoom call or have them respond to something. New problems to solve. I would imagine some of you are seeing some new opportunities within your own practice area. You know, now looking at what value you offer to your clients and figuring out how to pivot, you know, that's a huge opportunity. Video calls are now the norm. So, you know, having a Zoom call a year ago with a prospect or a referral partner would not have been as well received as it is now. I think people are much more open to chatting over a Zoom call. 70% of communication is nonverbal. So this is a very meaningful way to communicate with people. So that's a huge advantage. So we have this instant commonality in this shared experience that we're all living through. All the things that are happening to all of us to varying degrees, but because we're all in it together, there's much more of an opportunity to bond as human beings. And that's really helpful in facilitating trust and fostering genuine, meaningful relationships that will hopefully result in business, because people want to do business with the people that they like and are connected to. There we go. Big bonus for me is introductory meetings can now be 10 minutes. So I feel like we've all had the occasion where somebody is introduced to us, or we reach out to someone who may seem like there's an opportunity to work together, to refer business back and forth. And in the first 5 minutes of, you know, meeting for lunch, you're recognizing we have nothing in common. We do not look at the world the same way. There's no way I ever will send you any business, and I don't want your business. And then we're sitting through a long, awkward lunch. So I think a huge bonus is, you know, 10 minutes into a call, you guys have shared what you do for a living and your outlook on life, and you can, without any awkwardness, say, this has been really nice. I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to staying in touch. And then you're off with the rest of your day. So the time investment in reaching out to people is a lot lower, and it works in your favor both ways. So people who you reach out to who aren't sure how the two of you can work together will take a video call most likely, because it's a small time investment. And I live in LA where driving everywhere takes an hour each way. So it's always especially now how we're kind of prioritizing our time. I see this as a huge benefit. Okay. Oops, did I skip one?
It
Oh,
really is a huge benefit, not driving from North County to downtown San Diego and back again repeatedly is.
right.
Yeah.
So
Jersey and Boston have similar types of traffic issues, probably not as intense, but I've been in their traffic jams before, so.
right. Well, and beyond, our immediate traffic and geography, there's no travel obstacle anymore. So the logistics of getting in front of someone who is maybe in another state or on the other side of the country, those things are gone now. So being able to kind of expand your practice is a huge benefit. Okay, so what we're focusing on today is ways that we can grow existing relationships. We'll look at using Zoom and making sure that we're leveraging it in the best way to present ourselves in the best light. And then how are we going to develop existing relationships? So I put developing existing relationships into 3 categories to think about. So keeping your clients is the first category. So these are the people that already have hired you, and just paying attention to them in a way that ensures that they continue to work with you. Obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious because I do a lot in developing new business, but keeping the business that you have is the best use of your time. When it comes to business development, if clients leave as quick as they come, it's not going to help you in your practice. So leveraging your existing clients is another category when we're talking about existing relationships. So, we've spent our careers building these relationships. It's important that you're staying top of mind with these people so that you can uncover current opportunities and also get referrals, really just figuring out how to make sure that people in your network remember you and know when to think of you. So that's another category. And then expanding existing clients. So some of us have the opportunity to develop more work from existing clients. So that's another component of what we'll be discussing. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is collaborating with your network, because I really feel like this is an underutilized tactic in our business development. So most attorneys, understand that writing client alerts, articles, white papers, this is a great way to build your credibility. It's a marketing opportunity most of the time. So one thing that we really encourage our clients to do is invite colleagues, prospects, clients to co-author or co-host these types of opportunities for you or with you. I think it's a great opportunity to, obviously bolster the relationship with that person. And on top of that, you're adding to your own credibility when you partner with someone who is also an expert in the space that they're in. And then on top of that, you get the exposure to their network as well. So has anyone in the group done any kind of collaboration in regards to business development where maybe you co-host a webinar? Bob and I are collaborating right now. I pushed it out to my LinkedIn and he pushed it out to his LinkedIn, and my, contacts are seeing Bob and his contacts are seeing me. I've co-authored. Has anyone done anything where you're inviting somebody that you want to make a client or is a client? Joanne?
I can't say that I have. The thing that comes to mind that was closest to this when I was still in a law firm large law firm a while ago, is part of our client development was actually using clients' success stories and having the clients present them frequently online, frequently via video, to our and their network. So you actually have a testimonial of sorts, but it's a little bit more specific than that, and it's more than a 1 or 2 sentence thing.
Great. Yeah, no, I think
storytelling.
Yeah, and that tells a very compelling story, obviously, kind of that testimonial take on things. And if anyone's interested in doing this, please reach out to me and we could talk individually about something specific to you and your practice, because I love this and I think it's a great way to foster relationships and really build your network and your reputation.
We did this in the beginning of the pandemic. I think it was in April. We brought on 3 clients, and we did a video series to show how they were able to pivot their business. And then we're also doing a webinar where we're partnering with another firm. So that the web series was interesting. I enjoyed doing that because I was interviewing the clients. I think that we're still a young firm, so I think the reach wasn't as, I guess, long as we would have liked, but it was interesting and fun.
Yeah, I think
actually, just if I can throw it in, Joanne and I actually are collaborating on a program about how to successfully mediate, prepare, present, and resolve a case for the Bar Association. Maybe we should take that national in the age of virtual.
I don't know, Bob.
Huh? Yeah.
Given how long it took me doing the slides, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
You definitely should be getting as much leverage out of whatever work you're doing. That's another topic, but if you're presenting, you guys should maybe co-author something since you already did all the work.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking the show on the road, I love that. If you're finding that you enjoy presenting it together and the topic is relevant to your target audience, I would look at ways of expanding that and doing more of it.
Going back to Antonella's comment though, I wonder if any pieces of either the webinars or the interviews that you did, have you been able to put them on LinkedIn?
Yes, they're featured on my LinkedIn, so they stay there. And then we have a YouTube channel that we put them on.
Okay.
So they're there, and I think we probably need to highlight them again or keep bringing them back. Maybe that would be a good way to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I feel like we've all kind of been invited to a virtual happy hour. I think now we really need to be highly intentional and personal and thoughtful when we're putting together groups of people. Bob mentioned he kind of let go of a lot of these organizations, and I know why he did it, because a lot of these kind of lost their allure when you're on a virtual screen and you see 40 little postage stamps of people that you're not sure what you have in common with. So now as we kind of move forward and we want to bring people together, because that is a good way to build relationships and foster introductions, the key is really being highly personal and intentional about it. So these are some of the things that we've seen. Either our clients have done it, we've participated in these types of things as ways to bring together people that are already in your network. So cooking classes where you bring in a chef that's kind of guiding people. I've seen where, if you're bringing your clients together and you want to invest into this get together, they're sending a box of ingredients and they're all cooking together. I've seen spirits classes or wine classes where they have a mixologist or a sommelier come and talk about what people are drinking, and doing kind of a tasting, or like they're mixing a cocktail together. I've seen people do murder mystery games. There's companies that kind of facilitate that. I saw that for a retreat that one of the firms did. Short story clubs where people share an article or a short story, and they're meeting regularly to discuss these. Usually it's around a certain topic or theme. A young child distance learning support group, where you can talk about the successes and challenges of facilitating distance learning, or I would just get on there and cry and drink wine. It's not going that great. That's the Manganiello household. Travel club, I think, we're all stuck home. So this one's a fun one where everyone brings a handful of photos to share, and some stories as to why this specific trip was so special to them. That's a really nice way of getting to know someone kind of in an intimate way. And plus you're learning, traveling vicariously through people. A poker club, if you're into poker, there's web hosted poker platforms where you can invite people. And then some parts of the country are opening up a little bit and having, backyard or rooftop, open air, wine and cheese things where it's a really small, intimate group. Or, getting a projector and watching a game together, as those are becoming things that you can actually do, or having a movie viewing. But again, this is a little sensitive, so you just want to make sure that the way that you're presenting them, these opportunities, is in an easy way where there's no pressure, and just being conscientious that people have different sensitivities to specifically COVID-19 and getting together. Any ideas or thoughts? Has anyone been invited to any of these types of gatherings?
I haven't, but I've thought of a reading club as an idea.
So they're highly personalized. Some of these may seem really lame to some of you, and some might really resonate. And this is a great way to bond with the people in your network who don't think it's lame, and they do want to, read about these specific themes in your short story club, or are really into, cocktails and are excited about doing something like that. Okay. So staying top of mind, we talked about this a little bit. So anticipating opportunities. So when you can see something coming down the pike, it's in your best interest to make connections with your contacts before it happens. And, a lot of firms are trying to get out the client alerts first, but at the end of the day, the person who's making that phone call is probably most likely to get the opportunity. So I think, Keith talked a little bit about working with colleagues. I think this is a good opportunity to market internally. And if you're in smaller firms where, marketing internally is not really going to be that helpful, but reaching out to the attorneys in your network, and letting them know that, this is something that their clients might want to be thinking about, and just staying on top of whatever might be imminent. The next thing is being proactive. So, some of the things we can predict, some things we cannot. So there's lots of examples of things happening overnight. So making sure, again, you're the first person to be picking up the phone to call those clients or prospects, colleagues, and letting them know, I'm thinking about you in this regard, and we're on top of this, and I want to be proactive. Be prepared. So again, I am all about one-on-one connections and relationships. And one of the concerns is you don't want to feel like the conversation is awkward. So doing some preparation before you make calls is going to help you with that. So Googling the person, looking at their LinkedIn, finding out what the latest is with them, you know, talking about all the doom and gloom as kind of your small talk is fine. And, you know, we're all connecting as humans, but it's better if you have some specific talking points to them. So maybe they're raising money for Alzheimer's right now, or you saw they were quoted in the Business Journal. These are things that, you know, if you're bringing them up on a call, people will recognize, oh, this person cares about me and is paying attention, and it gives easy conversation points. I think it's helpful when you're making these calls to have an outline of an agenda of what you'd like, how you'd like the conversation to go, and your objective for the conversation, and then also think ahead of time what you think a next step could possibly be, in case, you know, you get through the meeting and nothing's popping into your mind. Any thoughts or questions so far? Okay, so being creative, I think that now we really need to focus on how we can differentiate ourselves, and spamming people with blast emails is not going to get you noticed or make you stand out. So we have some of our clients sending out their November and December holiday gifts now. Obviously, you know, getting a gift in September or October, it's going to get noticed. But again, you want to be super thoughtful about what you're sending and make sure it's specific to the recipient. Anything that you send right now will get noticed. We're all virtual and, you know, sending things virtually. So using the post and having something physically delivered is something that's going to help you stand out, even if it's a handwritten note. But books, things like that that are thoughtful, I think go a long way, specifically right now. And I had somebody ask, how do you know where to send somebody an item if you don't have their home address? I think letting people know, hey, I want to send you something, where are you receiving mail? I think that's an easy way to grab an address from somebody. All right, so let's play a little game. So this is specifically around Zoom, and I'm gonna show you an image, and just based on first impressions, let the group know what you would hire this person for, just given their image and your first impression. So here we have a gentleman with a suit and tie and a tropical background, and this is that one that's a video background, so the trees are swaying behind him. So would you hire him as a travel agent, a tax attorney, or a hotel manager?
Hotel.
Hotel.
Hotel. Okay. All right. Here we have a man in the grass. I feel like this is reminiscent of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Muted, Joey.
What?
I was saying Jolene's muted. She was answering.
Sorry, I said travel agent because whoever the first one was, no, I said a travel agent would never wear a suit. That's what I said.
Oh, right. So somebody in the grass, I have exterminator, plant biologist, or immigration attorney, just based on what you see.
Are you going against virtual backgrounds? Is this where they're going?
No, I promise.
Okay.
Plant biologist.
Plant biologist.
Gotta be, yeah.
And then here we have a gentleman who is backlit. I think just the monitor is the only light on his face.
Hitman.
Developer, hitman, pilot. Okay.
Developer.
Developer or hitman. One or the other.
The same thing. Yeah.
And then here we have somebody in their bedroom, sitting on their bed with the door to the bathroom open and a dog in their lap.
Oh, dog shitter. Yeah.
Yeah, dog sitter.
This is actually my husband, but I have seen this way too many times where somebody has the bathroom door open or they're in their bedroom on their bed in a business setting. So I thought it was worth staging.
Nice.
So really what I wanted to convey with this, and by the way, those were all attorneys, and I actually the developer you got right. That was more a lighting choice that gives the first impression that, you know, you're a little bit in the shadows. So that's why I included that image. But what I really want to talk about is kind of how you're presenting yourself, what behind you represents, and just being intentional about those things. That grass background is in, you know, is a automatic upload in Zoom. And I want people, when they click on that one, to think about, well, what does this say about me? So things to consider. Did anyone have, I have nothing against virtual backgrounds. I generally do use a virtual background. The one thing I do suggest is if you're not going to bring, if you wouldn't invite that person into that room, then either change your positioning so that you can't tell you're in your bedroom, and you can't see the bathroom or you can't see the kitchen. Things that make it feel more casual would be the kitchen and the bathroom or your bed. And if that's not possible, use a virtual background and choose something that is neutral or is representative of who you are in a way that makes sense. The developer's background was kind of a weird perspective, the aerial perspective, but that's a good background as long as I can see you. And, you know, that was just his background when he was speaking, so he wasn't presenting. So let's go through really quickly.
I have a question about Zoom etiquette.
Uh-huh.
So within our firm, we've been trying to use Zoom to, we have roughly 35 professionals and 65 total. So we have once a week meetings, and we've tried to get people to show their image on Zoom, but a lot of people just refuse. And we've kind of gently or nicely considered them. I mean, what is the proper etiquette? Is that unrealistic on our part, or?
Well, so if you're having a conversation, it's important to see the person. I already mentioned, you know, 70% of our communication is nonverbal. So you're losing as the presenter a lot if you want to have a two-way dialogue with someone if they're not showing their image. So, you know, if it's an internal meeting, just letting people know the expectation is that you will show up as if this were a meeting in the office in the conference room.
Right.
I think people understand that. And if they're told, you know, this is not really optional, I need everybody showing up as if we're meeting in the office. I mean, if you were having those meetings before, I don't think it's out of line to tell people, no, we're showing up as a collective group because we really want to understand you and we're sharing ideas.
Yeah, no, we didn't have them before because everyone was in the office, so we wouldn't have weekly meetings. We did it more as a mechanism to try and stay connected and try and make people feel like they're still part of something, engaged with the firm. The other good thing I heard was you should always take your cue from a client if you're on a client one. If the client wants to rename, you know, not use a camera, then that's probably okay for you not to do it as well, or, you know, whatever your choice is. But
I think one of the problems that I've seen with this, and I haven't had it really dealing with clients so much, is employees feel, you know, if I've got to work at home, then I can wear my yoga clothes or pajamas or whatever I want, and I don't have to wash my hair, put on makeup, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just how it's going to be in terms of dealing with co-employees. And I would think from a professional standpoint, there is an appreciation if you have someone from the outside who's also going to participate or going to talk to you. For example, if Lana were giving a presentation to everybody in your conference room, it's a matter of respect to show up and show your face. So there are different ways to spin it, but I certainly understand the issue with employees forced to work at home or choosing to work at home, saying, you know, I'm going to look whatever I want, and I'm not sharing that with anybody. So it's hard. I agree. It's hard.
It is hard. Someone made the observation, and within our firm, it's pretty true. It's the people that don't do it, that don't turn on the camera. They're kind of the people that are least forthcoming in their, you know, and I don't want to say untrustworthy because that sounds kind of harsh, but you know what I mean. They're the people who are more close-vested, and it is true, at least within our firm. So it was an interesting observation. And I don't know, in some cases it may deal with the point that you raised, in other cases it may not. But
well, just as a thought, another way to do it is to tell them they're expected to arrive in whatever appearance they want to put forth if they were seeking a salary increase.
right.
We can talk offline one-on-one.
Yeah. I don't want to
internal, but I think one thing we see, you know, we're in California, we work with a lot of entertainment attorneys, and they're like telling us that their clients are casual, and so they can be casual, but we really want to put forth the image of somebody who can do all the things that you do for your clients. And I don't think matching them is how you want to do that. You know, if I jump on a call with my lawyer and I'm in my pajamas, I don't expect, if he's in his pajamas, I don't like that, you know, or my accountant or any of these advisors. And I'm talking from a client's perspective. You know, I think the clients have a little bit of an out in that, you know, they probably wouldn't show up in your office in their pajamas, but
I wasn't suggesting that. Mine was more of the camera etiquette, the whether to have the camera
turn it on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an easy.
I agree with you 100%.
Language to put in an email, or we can talk about it. But yeah, everybody's losing that's participating when not everyone has their image up. And I don't mean on like a webinar. I wouldn't take offense if people on this call were not in person, but if, you know, the 5 of us were part of a team and we're trying to collaborate, I would expect that everyone's showing up and, you know, ready to talk business. Okay.
You know, there's just real briefly, there's another kind of aspect to this, and I think it's becoming less and less of an issue because everybody has become most people have become quite Zoom competent. And Bob and I went through this, but when the conversion was first necessitated by the stay-at-home orders to Zoom mediations, et cetera, there was an enormous hesitance. Some of it was generational, to use Zoom because of fear that I don't want to look stupid or ill-prepared or what have you using it. So another way to sometimes draw people in is, and I've used this with some of my colleagues who are a bit shy, I guess, is to say, look, I need to practice using Zoom. Would you mind doing a Zoom meeting with me? And, you know, actually forcing them, if you will, to use the controls and participate with you. And most people end up liking it. So
that's a great point. So just kind of the basics on how to look like your best self on Zoom. Make sure you're lit from the front, overhead lighting, cast shadows. And again, this is very specifically around new business and putting your best foot forward. I'm not talking about internal communications. Though if you want to motivate people to behave in a certain way, I think it's important to put your best foot forward. So lighting is important, camera position. I see people using their camera on their laptop, which I'm using, but it's elevated. If it's in your lap, sometimes that screws up the audio because the microphone kind of rubs against stuff. and you're moving, or that angle from below up is just unflattering. Again, with the background, I think the key here is removing distractions. So, you know, if you have your family running around behind you or animals, that sort of thing, you want to position yourself so that the person that you're talking to can't see that kind of stuff. Appropriate attire, again, wear from the waist up whatever you would meet that person in person wearing. Eye contact is helpful. So, you know, again, building trust, people want to look into your eyes. It's really awkward to stare directly into the camera, even though that really is the best practice. And if I was, you know, making a video, I would be looking into it, but I'm trying to look at you guys. But make sure you're it's not totally obvious that you're not even in the realm of where the person's, so it looks like your eyes are facing the right way into the person's face. Oh, sorry if the audio just got weird. And then stay focused. You know, again, if there's more than one other person on the call, it's really easy to check your phone. Try to do whatever you would do in an in-person meeting. If you wouldn't be checking your email, then do not check your email. And then don't be the person frazzled by technology. If you have a prospect or client meeting, hop onto the Zoom a few minutes before to make sure everything's working. I feel like every time I do an update on WebEx, it screws up all my settings on Zoom. So you don't want to figure that out while the person's looking at you. So it's always best practices to check all that before your meeting time. Okay. So again, not to beat this into the ground, but how, you know, if your lobby had old posters, old technology, was messy, you know, your clients would walk in and say, geez, this person doesn't think about the small things. How are they going to be the best advisor to me? So, you know, our Zoom presence is basically our lobby at this point. So make sure you're reflecting who you are as a professional in your Zoom presence. There's some new construction going on. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, so best practices when in regards to video calls, suggest them. So, you know, when you're setting up a time to speak, make video call kind of your first suggestion. Also on the video call component, studies show that you're 35 times more likely to get a yes when you're face-to-face than over the phone or over email. So it's in your best interest to be face-to-face over video. You need to bring 110%. There's a lot of subtleties that are lost over video, so you kind of have to up the energy when you're talking to someone on a video call. We mentioned logging in early, outline a meeting agenda, we talked about as well. And then bumper time between meetings. I don't know if you guys are like me where, you know, the fact that you don't have to travel, you're now kind of backing all your meetings up one on top of each other where you're almost late to the next meeting. Just be mindful of what you're losing when you don't have any buffer time in between. So I like to have, you know, 15 minutes in between my meetings so that I can think about what just happened, make notes to myself, figure out, you know, who needs to do what are the next steps, versus, you know, it's 7 o'clock at night and I have to think back on all the meetings that I had and what I need to do next. All right, so let's move on to initiating new relationships. The first step is identifying target professionals. So, you know, the more narrow this is, the easier it is to execute. So if I'm a cyber law attorney and I want to work with hospitals on their data protection. Figuring out who the decision makers are within a hospital organization is going to make my strategy a lot more doable than if I have kind of a broad, you know, I just want to meet people who have something to do with their company's data. So then you can use Google, you can use LinkedIn to find these people, and figure out if you already have some kind of warm connection to them, asking people to introduce you so that you can facilitate these contacts, or figuring out a way to introduce yourself in a way that doesn't feel cold. The next step is asking for introductions or introducing yourself. So I generally, when I'm asking Bob, hey, I noticed Antonella is in the startup space. I'm really focusing on working with attorneys that are focused on startups. Would you mind introducing me? And he says, yes. I'll send him a little blurb on how I want to be introduced. I think prepping people with a little template of who you are and what you do makes for a lot easier introduction. Or if I see Antonella is involved with the startup community and there's a specific organization that she's involved in, I might reach out to her and let her know, hey, I'm interested in getting involved with this organization. I'd love to hear what your experience has been. That's just one example, but figuring out how to reach out to someone in a way that doesn't feel totally cold ups the likelihood that they're going to agree to a meeting.
It's interesting because I have recently found that people are generally very gracious about making those types of introductions professionally, even if you don't know them after they talk with you for a certain period of time, or they know the person who initially connected you with them. And one of the things that I've also found useful is not only giving them a little blurb, but actually attaching a resume. So they can just forward it on very easily. You want to make things very easy for whoever's doing the introductions.
Right. And the likelihood of getting the introduction when you're so specific as to who you want to be introduced to. So saying, hey, do you know any startup lawyers? Antonella may or may not pop into his head depending on when the last time they connected. But if I have done my due diligence and I see that there's a likelihood that they know each other, the chances of him making that introduction are very much improved. Preparing for your meeting. That's a theme in this presentation. Preparing makes everything so much more easy. So finding commonalities. Again, this is specifically around someone you don't know. So looking at their LinkedIn, looking at their Google, you know, Bob mentioned that I went to UC Irvine. Figuring out what you guys might have in common creates that bond initially, and keeps the conversation moving. And again, have a little bit of an agenda. Figuring out your value proposition. So I think that before you make these calls and part of your preparation and your strategy of who you're targeting and what you want to talk about, be very clear on how you can provide value to that person. And then figure out your next steps. So I have pretty much ended every call with somebody that I've just met with next steps around making an introduction, sending them some piece of information like an article or an invitation to a webinar. So doing your best to come up with some kind of next step is going to make sure that this relationship continues to grow and that you have something to look forward to as far as growing that relationship. Any thoughts or comments?
I'm sorry, Lana, I have to drop now, but thank you for this, and it was nice meeting everybody on here. I'll be sure to connect with you guys on LinkedIn too.
Great, thanks, Antonella. I just we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I just
Bye.
really want to just, actually, before you go, one thing that I've noticed in myself over the years and in every other lawyer I know, we have a base of clients that we've dealt with. This is true in a lot of businesses. And they're just sitting there and people don't call them once a year or every, maybe a Christmas card. And I think those are great people to talk with during COVID, just to say, hey, just calling, catching up, see how you're doing. You don't even have to ask for new business, but it'll pop up. Those people already like you, know you, trust you, and have entrusted you. So I know you were just talking about new business, new people you didn't know, but I think there's a whole bunch of people in our client database that would love to hear from us.
Sure. And I think, ideas are easy. So coming up with these fun ideas on how to stay top of mind, that's not the hard part. Obviously, executing is the hard part. So you want to enlist whoever you can or whatever you can to help you stay accountable to what you're coming up with, either, paralegals or assistants, other attorneys that are like-minded, consultants like myself, technology. There's some technology that helps you stay accountable, but putting it in your calendar and coming up with targets on a daily or weekly basis is really the key to getting momentum and finding success with all of this. And I wrote an article for the Recorder on 10 steps to developing business virtually that I can send if that'd be helpful to you. And I'm happy to chat with anybody one-on-one if that's of interest, if there was something that you want to talk through a little further. But this has been really fun. I appreciate it, Bob. And I'd love that Keith and Joanne and Antonella, everyone was participating. It makes it, I think it's nice to hear from other professionals